folks. My name is Michael Bertrand, and today we're going to talk about national character. That commonality that everyone who's from the same country seems to have. Sure, there's all kinds of different people within a nation, and yet they'll all share a basic attitude, a basic emotional tone, a whole host of basic assumptions about human nature and the way the world works that you don't even know that you're making until you visit another country. Myself, I learned a heck of a lot about being Canadian by living in the States for a while. So we all know this happens. But how? How do we all end up with the same sort of personality base as others of our nation? What makes an American an American? What makes a Canadian a Canadian? What makes a Frenchman French? And the answer isn't all that complicated. National character comes from growing up with around people who have that national character already. Every national character is a self-replicating meme that causes people who grow up in that culture to absorb the same lessons and develop the same coping strategies and basically become, on one level, the same sort of person, simply as a rational adaptation to coping with the other people who are already like that. And this is not restricted to nations either. I just started with nations because it's easier to identify with. Any and all cultures essentially work like that. The reason that people of a culture, and that can be as big as a nation or as small as a knitting club, end up somewhat alike, end up being able to tell one another at a glance, even at sometimes, even if you've never met before, is because they've faced the same situation, which is a bunch of people who are already in that culture, and have made some of the same adaptations, have had to learn some of the same lessons, etc., and sort of tune in to the local vibe. And when you do that, you end up somewhat, not entirely, but somewhat like the others. And that's how they all got that way too. It's so simple for something that seems so complicated. Most of us, in fact, belong to overlapping cultures. We actually have many cultural layers to us that we don't think about because there's so much just a background of our thought. You know, a fish doesn't know he's wet. We don't know that we're adapting to these cultures. We just do it instinctively. So a person might be one person when they're at work, and another person when they're at home, and another person when they're visiting their parents, and yet another person when they're relaxing at the club, and these are not mutually exclusive. These are not false. They're not pretending to be someone they aren't. They're all just versions of the same person that are displaying the adaptation characteristics of the culture they're in. That's why people tend to stay in the cultures that they know, because if you leave the cultures then you know, suddenly you have to learn to adapt all over again. So basically that's what I'm here to tell you today, and that's all I have to say. You become like others of your culture by adapting to that culture. And all the people in that culture have made those exact same adaptations. I think that if you give it a shot and try this particular lens on, a lot of things will become clear to you that were very murky before. My name is Michael Bertrand, and that's all I have to say for today, folks. Talk to you later.